And you are now live.
Thank you, Aisha. So welcome everyone to our first chat of 2021. Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. So this is obviously we got Mark, Guy, Matt, and Jonas with us tonight. All solution focused practitioners, but all lovers of music. And I just wanted to kick it off because I've always wanted to play an instrument, never really got down to it. Played the recorder at school and it kind of died off there. And I know that music can mean so much for different people. I've had songs that have made me laugh, songs that have made me cry. For you guys individually, why is music so important to you? Let's start with Guy.
Well, can I just say first that as I'm looking around at my fellow, I'm liking the idea of being in a boy band with Jonas, Mark, and this is a bit blokey, but I think, yeah, I was just reading about riders before we came on because I've missed my rider for this gig, and I found this article about it, and One Direction were listed. I think they have KFC and beer and table tennis tables for their riders. So that's my sort of thing. I've forgotten your question, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah. Why is music so important to you, Guy? What is it?
God, that's a really hard question, actually. Why it's important. It might be as hard as why the solution focused practice work. We know it does. And so I know that solution focus, I know that music's important. I love it. Maybe why is it important? I know it's important because I'm drawn to it, and I make connections through it, and I make connections with everybody here today. And I've made a connection with Mark McKergow through music when I won this CD, and I wonder if Mark remembers that. You can't see it. It's got my name.
Shennan CD.
Yeah, Shennan CD. And it's a load of music that Mark played on a training course he ran with Paul Z. Jackson on accelerated learning in 2003 or 4. And that's when I really started to learn a lot about using music during training. And so I learned a lot from Mark about that. And one piece of music he played was Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. And I don't know if there was about 20 of us or 16 of us on the course. So he said, right, if anyone knows what that music was, they'll get a prize. So I said, yeah. I thought, well, this is unusual. When he I know, it's Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. So Mark made a CD of all the music he played on the 3-day course. So, which I found earlier. So music for me makes connections. Connected with Jonas when Jonas started the Spotify. Started the Spotify playlist. Well, I guess we can talk more about this. I'll shut up in a moment. And then a recent connection with Matt when we just did this amazing. It was billed to be a 3-hour workshop together on using music with solution focused, and I just stayed with them for 5 hours.
Yeah,
and that was like quite recently, October, I think. So music is connection. How about that? That's why it's important for me as a starting point. Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah.
Wow.
Matt,
I think that music as a connection. I don't know if there's much more to add to that. I think we can leave it there, guys. He's done it. He's summed it up. I think that's it. Music is a hardwired sort of route into yourself. And I don't know if it's some kind of primal thing, but it's, music has a way of connecting to one person, but connecting one person with many others, through creating music together, through listening to music together, through talking about music together. But also, just that feeling connected, even by listening to an artist or a piece of music that in any other way you have no connection to other than it talks to you and you feel something from it. And I feel that you can't be lonely with brilliant music. Almost, you feel like you are not alone, and it's that kind of connection that is just wonderful. but as well as that, I've played music since I was quite young and been in bands for years, and yeah, it's been a real constant throughout my life, and just it feels like a friend, you know.
Oh,
that's my Matt. Oh, I love Matt.
Yeah, but there we go. It's the truth, you know.
Yeah. Mark.
Yes.
How about you? Hello.
Well, I grew up with music partly because my mum was a music teacher and a church organist and a very, very good pianist. And so there was no way out of music in our house, but fortunately I enjoyed it very much. And so I've grown up playing piano and then recorder and then clarinet and then saxophone. And I've always had music in my life, and it's always been very important. It's maybe slightly less important than it used to be. I'm just reflecting at the moment, because you used to have to work really hard to get music. You used to have to go and buy a gramophone record or something like that, or you had to know someone who had a gramophone record, or if you were lucky, somebody play it on something on the radio, and you'd maybe tape it. I have cassettes of John Peel programs and those sorts of things. And so you had to really work hard to get music. And now you can get any music you want basically at the touch of a button for free, which it seems to me devalues it a bit. It makes it a bit too easy in a way. But of course, the upside of that is that we can listen to all the music that ever was, almost. And you don't have to do what I did when I was at school, which was read the NME Book of Rock, which was learning about rock music by reading about it, which is a shite way of learning.
You
read the review and you're like, wait, it doesn't sound like that.
Yeah. So you know, upsides too, but I've always enjoyed jazz, and maybe we'll come on to why I like jazz and why I think jazz, particularly solution focused elements to it later on. But if anyone's listening to this, one of the upsides of the wretched lockdown is that there's been some really good jazz being live streamed from places like Ronnie Scott's Club in London, who've been doing 2 sessions a week for the last several months. They're all on YouTube. They're all free. And there was one I watched last night, the Rachel Cohen Quartet, a young woman, Scotswoman with a transatlantic band. First class. It's out there. Anyone can listen to it. And I think that's brilliant. I think that's wonderful that we can access this new music happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Thank
wow.
you, Mark. Jonas.
I have no idea how to answer that question. I'm as flabbergasted as Guy was. I mean, music has always been a part of my life, and I don't know when it wasn't. I mean, from a very young age, my earliest memories are with music. I think I was only a few years old when I was screaming to Mum and Dad, "I want ham and cheese," and they connected it with a Neil Diamond song because this is what I wanted. And there's something. So ham and cheese is Neil Diamond playing "Sweet Caroline" because I really liked it when I was like a toddler. And I remember getting my first album, when I was 5. It was, it's a guilty pleasure, but it was the Osmonds, which is terrible for me now. But and crying my eyes out from Puppy Love and all the corny songs that they did. But then getting into punk and new wave when I was like 10, and I was like, I was buying albums, I was cycling to the record shop every chance I got, listening to the radio, picking up, listening for new songs, and that raw energy that came from all the punk ethos and in my household, my dad had all the Beatles tracks on a reel-to-reel. It just kept on going all the time. So the Beatles was everywhere, and so all this kind of like guitar-based pop rock is like in my DNA kind of. And then I kind of really like solutions focused as something that draws us all to this room. I also was very influenced by Mark, actually, because Mark did the workshops in Sweden, and that's where I met Mark first. And he started his workshops with classical music. And even before it began, there was classical music in the room. I was like, what a brilliant way of using music to make people feel welcome. And I mean, even silence is a sound, right? We know there's a song also, John Cage. But just using the sound to highlight, to make people more welcome in the room. And I was thinking back on that the other day. I was like, oh, brilliant way. That's what really got me going, connecting solutions focus to music. So it ties in with Guy's story as well, when using music as part of accelerated learning, which is also part of accelerated learning, musical intelligence. Sometimes we connect things, learn things through music. It just makes us remember things so easily. And then just got the idea a few, 2013, and Guy was very early on. I don't know who was really first. I mean, it was very, very early, but Guy was like definitely the first person who kind of, I want to join in this project, this playlist, because just thinking, could we combine our encyclopedia knowledge of music and all the music that's out there that kind of fits with solutions focused way of thinking, and put it in the list? I mean, it's such an easy thing to do. Like Mark was saying, it's all digital, it's so available. And that's 7 years ago, no, almost 8 years ago now. And there are, 800, I got it written down, 867 songs now on the list, and 55 hours of music. And there's everything on that list that you could, and there's probably lots of stuff not on the list, so it's growing all the time. But I'm going to look up Herbie Hancock and go through his discography and see if there's more stuff from him.
You know the song that you're missing, Jonas, don't you?
There is one from the FBS Chat, is there? Right? Yes, well, that's 868. I'll show you that.
Just reminding you.
Yeah, go on.
Just reminding you. I mean, we had solution focused practitioners on there, therapists on there. It was Matt, our own Matt, that produced the whole thing. You can't get more SF than that, can you, Jonas?
It's true. And there is Bill O'Hanlon's on the list too. So he's recorded stuff.
There you go.
So that's on the list as well. So we're definitely adding that to the list. Of course we are. And I'm really, there's really no criteria other than a slight, something solutions focused about this song.
That's interesting. Sorry to jump in there, Jonas. I was just thinking of the playlist is clearly designed to be songs that have got some connection with solution focused in the song itself. Yeah. Yet the songs that I mean, The Power of Love should become a really important song in the solution focused world because of FBS what they've done with it, which is just brilliant. And it made me think of I don't know if I doubt that God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols is on the playlist, is it?
I don't think so. No.
A few of you have mentioned punk, and me and Rob Black did a workshop once on solution-focused brief therapy and punk, and Mark was there. And one of the most memorable memories I have in connection with solution-focused and music was we played God Save the Queen. This was a packed workshop in Bruges, I think, in 2007. And Mark was maybe second row from the back and just got up immediately and started pogo dancing. So I think I'm the only person to have Mark McKergow pogo dancing in a workshop.
That's when you know you've got it right.
It was fantastic. Yeah. So
I think punk is there's a good connection with solution focus on punk, and on my wall here I have a print of a very famous fanzine page, which is called "Playing in the Band #1" of a very short series, and it says this is a chord, this is another chord, this is the third. Now form a band.
Form a band.
That's isn't it?
And there's something about and before there was punk, there was prog, which was the opposite of that, really. You had to be very, very complicated and so forth. And I always drew the connection between the sort of, the complexities of psychoanalytic work being the prog, and the three kind of basic ideas of a solution focus. What do you want? What's working already? Take a small step or something like that. As being the kind of the equivalent of now start doing it. With solution focus, you can start doing it even after a one-day workshop. You don't need to do a training course. So I see quite a lot of punk in solution focus in that way.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That's what we were saying in the workshop. Yeah, and just thinking about punk, and so Mark, you mentioned jazz as being connection with solution focused, and Lou Reed because of the Velvet Underground was massively influential on punk. And Jonas and I quoted Lou Reed in the article that we wrote. Was it Songs and Solution-Focused Practice? Solution-Focused Practice and Song, the best part of us, which is a great quote from Nick Hornby. And that famous quote from Lou Reed, 1 chord is fine, 2 chords is pushing it, 3 chords and you're into jazz. So that's the connection with Solution Focused. 1 chord is enough, really. And even pushing it.
I think that was quite enough.
What was you going to say, Matt?
Sorry, my internet's a bit poor, but I was going to say, from immediately when I first had my first training session with Joe and Aisha, which is how I got involved in solution focused therapy, and it's I immediately kind of felt that this was a punk approach. It just seemed so sort of, like stripping away. You don't need all of that stuff, all of that extra stuff. You don't need it. It doesn't help. It's not necessary. Do you want to do this? Yes. Okay, let's do it then. And it's all about the spirit and the approach. And you don't have to be a certain type of person. There's no. It seems to me to be a very quite a kind of good leveler. Like you were saying, do a 1-day training course and then off you go. There you go. There's your 3 chords. Go and do it. Go and form a band. And
that doesn't mean that you know everything there is to know, but it's enough to get started.
And that's
learn how you're doing it.
Yeah, and I think that's the same. That there can be kind of quite big similarities with punk again, because how many bands started awfully in the punk scene. So many bands could not play and then evolved into some bands that were really great by the end. It was an organic real process. It wasn't a kind of I know everything and now I'm going to tell you how it goes. It was growing together, and I love that about it. But I'm really interested because I always thought it was a very kind of punk approach, and it felt quite like I'm not an expert. I'm not going to tell you everything. I'm not going to tell you about your problem. We're going to work it out together. But jazz has always felt like a very kind of expert sort of form, like musical form to me. You said, Mark, that you think jazz is very
absolutely. So let me just say why I think that. So it's on a different line, a different level or something. In jazz, everybody participates, and it matters. Each musician brings something of themselves to the performance, and so it matters who the bass player is. It matters who the drummer is. They're not just sat there kind of doing what they're told. Everyone is contributing, and often everyone or most people are soloing at some stage, and jazz is about coming forward and going back again. And Humphrey Lyttelton, God bless him, ran a Radio 2 jazz program for mid-decades, and he was criticised sometimes for always reading out all the people on the record. And people say, can't you just get on with it? We don't need to know who the drummer was. And he would always say, yes, you do. Because the drummer is not playing a part the composer created. The drummer is making up his own part or her own part as they go along. And so I think this sense that everybody is a part of it, when we're working with a family or a team, that's very much the same. Everyone's bringing something. Everybody's contributing, maybe some more than others at a given moment, but everyone's there to bring their stuff. And you can't just take one of them away and it's the same team. It's not, or the same family. And so when we listen to a symphony recording, it says it's the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra conducted by Herbert von Karajan playing Beethoven. And the record does not tell you who the piccolo player is, because the piccolo player is doing what he's told by Herbert von Karajan. But jazz records always tell you everyone who's playing. And I think I love that element of everyone's creating together.
Wow. Yeah. So what, I know you've got your Spotify playlist, guys. What what are the sort of elements of a solution-focused song? What is it that you need to, that kind of makes it SF?
I tried asking that question once on the list, on the SFT list, and I got no replies. So, because I kind of thought that was kind of a nice way of trying to describe the approach. So if we could describe it to, I mean, what would be a criteria for a solution-focused song? Because somebody tell me, loosely connected, is that enough? Does it have to be more than that? And I don't know if there is a real answer to that question, because there's probably many different ways of connecting you to a song, and as a triangle, you, song, and solution focus. But there are, I mean, I suppose anything can be expressed through music. I mean, a scale, 1 in 10, UB40. I am the 1 in 10 is a 1 in 10. And there are lots of songs on scaling. There are lots of songs on, miracles, dreams, visions, things that we'd like to see happen in the world. There are lots of songs on, always look on the bright side of life. What's the one on the bright side of the road? What's the Van Morrison song? I can't remember now.
Hang on.
There we go. And I don't need to explain to you what's the connection with solutions focus, do I? Really? I mean, we get the song and we're putting in a solution focused context and we're listening it with new ears and kind of thinking, well, I can hear the connection. Yeah, there's a metaphorical connection. There's a smile. There's a dance. And what I really like about music, and we're not very good at talking about music in the Western world, but we kind of think it's something secondary, something we can add like spice to life. Music is optional. But I'm an anthropologist, and music from many other cultures is primordial. I mean, it's been around since we started telling each other stories. People have been, drumming or making songs or just socially gathering around music. And music does things to us. It changes us. It changes the way we relate to each other. We get away from mind-body dualism kind of stuff. It doesn't need something intellectual to express. It's bodily, but also embodied. Guy, it's embodied cognition in itself, because we can't do it alone. And the whole body starts moving, and your foot starts tapping. You smile, and it's infectious. I mean, how do you get 50,000 people screaming to Queen and Wembley Stadium? Well, through a song. And it just has the magical power of music. It just breaks all these boundaries, and then it's also so incredibly personal. I mean, Guy and I did a workshop in the Frankfurt conference, the World Conference, and we asked the participants, to pick a song, in small groups, which would make a difference to you. And then the other persons in the group were supposed to ask, so what difference did it make? And they played the song, 2 minutes of the song. And they came back and saying, well, we've been friends for life now. We're connecting with each other in ways that it wasn't possible to do. Because music has such a power over our identity, or, what's important. I mean, important moments in our life, there's often music there. And we'd never forget that piece of music, because that did something to us. I don't know. So there is something very, very magical and mystical and primordial, or it's just a different dimension of human experience, I think. And it's just great to tap into that, we're not just going away from just language as written text, and language as, well, what's the language of music then? That's a completely different language, and just gets you other places.
Just to pick up on, just to come in there, Jonas. You said that we're not very good at talking about music. I think you said in the Western world,
Yeah, we kind of put it.
We are. What you went on to describe is people are really good at doing it and making music, and I think we are good at talking about it and intellectualizing it, and that loses it to some extent. We're not as good at playing it, and I mean, it's interesting to think about jazz, and I love hearing Mark talk about jazz. I love hearing Mark play jazz, and I love jazz music. And at the same time, I share Matt's comment earlier and sort of being curious, because it does seem expert, obviously compared to punk. I mean, most things do compared to punk, but compared to drumming, and mass drumming and singing, and I mean, I'm going to perhaps sound a bit like I'm looking at the past through rose-tinted glasses or whatever the expression is, but, mass sing-along in pubs and, people joining in and singing and playing guitars or banging drums. And I think we have lost that with, I don't know whether, since maybe Bach and Beethoven and since the Western world created classical music and, I'm not a historian about this stuff, but I've got a rough idea that 18th century onwards and people go and sit down and watch experts play. And to me, jazz feels part of that. You're not going to sort of all join in a mass sort of jazz play if you're not a jazz player. So I was just having those thoughts as you were talking and associating with solution focused. I like the collective side of music. So as Mark was saying, there's a great story about Humphrey Lyttelton that he insisted on naming every player. There's a lot of respect in that, as well as making the point that every player is important. At the same time, I was thinking of the orchestra. And this, I'm sort of contradicting myself here, I think, because in praise of the orchestra, the collective, you're part of a bigger whole, much bigger than yourself, and mass gatherings of people banging drums or whatever it is, big massed choirs, big sing-alongs, 50,000 Liverpool fans thinking you'll never walk alone. These are transcendent moments because of the number of people involved. And so there's some connection there about the everydayness, the fact that you can join in, solution focus, you can learn it in a one-day workshop, and it can be a skill that almost anyone can learn and support. Kids in schools can learn it and support each other. So, solution focused peer support. So I like that sort of the potential of it to be a mass approach that everyone can use.
Here in Scotland, we do a lot of Cayley dancing. And dancing to traditional music, quite simple dances that everyone can learn quickly. And it's not just on New Year's Eve for the telly. If you go out into Scotland on a Saturday night to the village hall, there'll be a Cayley, and the vast cross-section of the village will be there, doing these dances and enjoying the music and enjoying a drink and having a right old good time. And it's a great participation sport in that sense.
Yeah.
I think as well, it's like, in a way, it's like a shared language, and that's another kind of thing. That's it's using your own language. Not trying to do something that using words that you don't understand. It is whether it's learning the dance or a musical language, but it's using a language that is natural and that you feel comfortable with, and you own together and having that connection. I think that's really important as well, is that we kind of, actually kind of reminds me, because I was, after my training session with Guy actually, and we came up with some amazing ideas that day, and one of them was using music within a session, and I did that, and I thought it is an extension of using the client's own language in a way, because it puts them in a position that they decide, okay, so what are we listening to? I remember I was talking to this boy, and we put on an artist called Fali Popo. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And immediately it tied the session to his culture, to things that he enjoyed. It immediately put him at home. There was a connection to home in his head, and doing a miracle day question, and it was, what would he be listening to? I remember Guy, we were talking about that, and he was like, okay, so I'm going to be helping my mum, and we're going to be tidying up. I'm going to be listening to this track by Fali Popo, and it put him in that moment, and it put him in control of the feel of it, and let him direct it. And I just thought that was really it was really enjoyable, educational for me as well. I learned it was quite good to learn some new music, but really use his cultural language, I suppose, his own cultural, I don't know, you know what I mean.
I'm quite interested to know how many actual musical instruments can you guys play? Because I want to see who's going to win this one.
Do you mean like as in punk or jazz?
As in proper physical instruments, how many instruments can you guys play?
Who's going to go first?
I'm going to get 1.5. I play a little bit of guitar. I've never played publicly, but I've played since I was a teenager. So I've got a nice semi-acoustic downstairs, which I dabble around with. And then I have performed one song on a ukulele once it was in Frankfurt, wasn't it? The SF Trainers cabaret. I did that's the only places I've done. I've been on stage has been SF related cabarets. The only place where I get the nerve to do it. So I played one song on the ukulele. So I bought the ukulele to be able to play one song, and I could play one song on Magnetic Fields. What's it? It was something with dancing.
I know the song.
I'll get to it in a minute. It's a great song. It's on the playlist. It's something about dancing. Anyway. So yeah, I can play a little bit of guitar, and I suppose I could play around other people in the guitar.
Well, I think guitar and ukulele, those are two instruments. You said 1.5. Come on, Jonas.
One song.
No, I'm giving you that.
3 chords. That's it.
Yeah, we got to hear that. What about you, Guy?
Well, I played the bass guitar many years ago in different types of bands. Initially, a punk band. So I can strum a guitar a little bit since those days, about 15. And I've also once took part in a world record. It's another Humphrey Lyttelton story, in that I went to see the radio show I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, which Humphrey Lyttelton used to chair, and there was a live tour of it, and I went to the Hammersmith. Is it the Odeon these days or the Apollo? The Hammersmith Apollo, and the producer came on at the start of the show. We arrived and there was a kazoo. This is the musical connection. There was a kazoo on each seat. Picked up the kazoo and sat down. The producer came on and said, "You'll have found your kazoo on your seat. There's a kazoo on every seat." It was a sellout event, and we thought we'd check out what the world record for a kazoo orchestra is. And we found that it's a sellout. So there's 3,000 people here, and the world record is 2,000. And then we all started cheering, and we all played the kazoo. So I can play the guitar a little bit, and play the guitar on the kazoo.
How did it sound, Guy? How did three?
Well, and after that, Humphrey Lyttelton named all 3,000 of us after we played.
Thank you very much.
Each one of you brought something unique.
What about you, Mark?
Yeah.
I know you played the saxophone because you entertained us New Year's Eve.
Yes, that's still on Facebook if anyone wants to go and have a rendition of Old Lang Syne in Highland dress on the doorstep. So I play saxophone, but that I can count that as 4 because there's a soprano saxophone, an alto saxophone, a tenor saxophone, and a baritone saxophone, which is my most recent acquisition. And I've got one of all of those, so that kind of counts as 1 or 4. I noodle on the piano, not very well. I used to have a piano when we lived in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. Unfortunately, there wasn't room for it in London, so I had to go. But I sort of noodle. I can do a bit of jazz and a bit of stuff and improvise on the piano. I've been making attempts to play guitar, mostly slide guitar, which is a bit different to ordinary guitar. Trying to play blues, discovering that sounding like Duane Allman is very, very difficult indeed. Even though he makes it look very easy, or made it look very easy. I've got a bass. I had a few goes on it. Learned to play the Fleetwood Mac, the Chain bass riff. That's about the limit of my bass playing. And I've played in various bands over the years. including one band called Ultrasound that got Arts Council support. And we did a small UK tour, including the South Bank Centre, which was just amazing, and Glastonbury as well on the jazz stage. That was more than 25 years ago now. Anyway, we did an album which I produced, and it's on YouTube. If you want to go and listen to Ultrasound, North at Sierra, South at Sierra, some maritime themed collection of original tunes, including me on soprano sax, then you can go and find it on YouTube.
Amazing.
Wow.
I lost count of the amount of instruments.
Yeah, I'm lost now. I'll take that as 11.
Yeah.
11.
Somewhere like that.
Is that what I've got to beat then? All right, here we go. Let me start.
So I love this bit. But can I just say that I taught you how to play the drums? Just make that very clear.
Yeah. Okay. Tambourine, triangle, woodblock, cabasa, maraca. No, I play. So my main instrument is guitar. Although, I used to be in a band. It was signed many moons ago. And I was a bass player in that band. Guitar was my first instrument. So guitar, bass, drums, lap steel guitar, which so it's like slide guitar, but it's so instead of it's just basically a flat block of wood, and you have so I play lap steel guitar. At the start of Christmas, I started trying to play a bit of piano, and my very basic attempts filled me with so much joy. I couldn't tell you. It was sort of being able to play with two hands, and every time one of my housemates walked past, I was like, Liz, come and listen to this. Play piano. It was
Were you playing scissors?
Yeah. Doom, 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 doom. That was a brilliant song called Hold Your Terror Close by a band called the Go Team. And it is a beautiful, beautiful song, I think. And I wanted to learn it for a long, long time. I used to work in North Middlesex Hospital, working with young people there. And they had a piano in the hospital. I used to walk past it all the time and just think, one day I'm going to sit down here and actually be able to play something. But so maybe I'll go back one day. But yeah, I think that's about it. I think about 4.5 maybe. I sing as well.
Well, he does sing. He's actually all right, Not too bad.
Instrument, right?
It's all right. But I thought we could play a little game where you each take turns, or a couple of you take turns in playing a song on an instrument, and everyone has to try and guess what you're actually playing.
Oh, no.
What, name that tune?
Name that tune, right? So Joe and I are here just to clap and go, yay, because we're obviously not very good. Although we do have a couple of guitars not far from me right now, so I could grab it and take it to Joe, but I'm just going to show him up if I do. So, who's going to go first? You don't all have to do it. Just a couple of you can do it, and we've got to try and I can tell you now, I won't know it unless it's rock music. Count me out.
I think Mark and Matt are the ones for this because they've got instruments there, which they're all Matt's going to play with us.
Matt doesn't like us now, so he's kind of gone off. Which of the 11 instruments got Mark?
Here we go.
Oh, my favourite.
Can you play two at the same time, Mark? I've seen people do that.
Yes, people like Roland Kirk and Dick Hextall-Smith.
Yeah, Courtney Palm, maybe.
Yes, Courtney Palm.
So see them do it. Yeah.
So, but you want a tune now? All right, let's go with this one then.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yay, very good.
Oh, lovely.
Has he frozen?
I thought it was rock songs we were gonna hear. Is Matt
Oh,
frozen?
no.
No, he's just amazed that Mark's playing. Look.
Look. Mark, you froze.
Mark did. I'm
No,
here.
Matt is.
It's Matt's that's frozen.
And wait, I thought it was Mark and Matt that froze.
No.
No.
Playing a long note.
Oh, don't worry about Matt.
Oh, it's frozen off again. I listening to you guys, and it seems it comes across the word that's come up a lot is connection, and how it connects people, not just together in massive crowds like you were saying, Guy, about you go to any football ground, whether it's You'll Never Walk Alone or Sweet Caroline comes up. I can't remember which club it is, but the whole crowd just get up in one voice and feel connected in that way because we know those lyrics. It's familiar to us. Matt's story with his young man there, I'm sure that when he hears that music, he's going to think about those best hopes and how he's going to help his mum at home. And I think there's those ways. And Mark, you're using music in your workshops. How else can we utilize music, do you think, in this world?
I've got when Guy and I did a workshop in Stockholm 2014. We kind of reduced it to 3 things, and you've already touched on 2. And one of them was, the first one was atmosphere, like Mark was, create music as creating an atmosphere. And I know Guy, even in breaks, you could put music in the breaks just to create an atmosphere of now we're moving on. There's a higher tempo, but maybe in the beginning it's a more low key and maybe more classical or something. I've got lots of different playlists on conference kind of music that you could have, different themes and stuff. And also after a conference or after a workshop, you could have like more, chill, loungy kind of music or something just to reflect or something. So that you can use it as an atmosphere. And the other one was like content, like Matt was talking about. So as a subject to talk about, something that would enrich a description of a miracle or something better, or something that was good, a good song that you heard last week that connected to a better frame of mind or something. I don't know. So you can use music as a kind of a tool, as a prop almost, something to show something much more. And I kind of use music a lot in workshops, in that way as well. We could be, using music deliberately to do things. So I remember once I had a workshop in Gothenburg where before everybody went into the workshop room, I got them. I said, stop, go out again. You got to come out again. Go out into the hall, and then I put on "Gonna Fly Now," the theme from Rocky. Now you can come in. So we came in with a huge smile and just a small kind of thing, but it created, it was telling them that I really appreciated them and wants to start off our relationship with a smile. And then the third thing, which I think we've also touched on, but it could make more clear, is using music as a metaphor. I mean, using the rich language of music, like we've been talking about jazz and punk and what's connection to Solutions Focus, to reflect on what Solutions Focus can be or how we describe it. But we could also be looking at the language, like tone, rhythm, volume, nuance. There's a whole language of music which could be applied to describing a session or learning to be better at our craft, just by looking at looking the tone of voice. How did that change during the session? Or the tempo, did that slow down or did it go faster? Was it better when it was silent than when you were talking? There's all these. The language of music can also enrich the experience of Solutions Focus. So you use it as more like a metaphor. That was what we were talking about 2014. We've probably evolved since then, but it just came to mind when we were talking that there's many different ways of using and talking about music.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think Matt, we should talk about the song that we wrote. Really, you wrote. at the end of our workshop together. Is Matt there, or is he frozen? No, he's there.
Yeah.
Where is Matt?
I am.
This idea of there's an idea. Oh, Matt's lips are moving and there's noise coming out of me. It's music and ventriloquy.
Can you see me? Am I back in the room?
Yeah. You are. Yeah. It's really, there was something influenced from narrative therapy about what people call rescuing the words of the client, and then using them to create songs. So I did a little session with Matt. We had a conversation where I asked, I can't remember what the focus of that was, Matt, but we had a future focused conversation about your work developing FBS or something like that. And I just made some notes of what Matt was saying, and had lots of Matt's words on a piece of paper, and then those words became the words of a song.
Oh, wow.
Which Matt wrote. Yeah. Do you want to say a bit more about that, Matt?
It was it was. I think that am I here still?
Yes, quick before you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep
well,
going.
it was just incredible.
Yes.
That it felt like a truly collaborative thing to do, and it felt very honest, because I had not been trying to write a song. I was talking, having a conversation, and Guy was taking those little nuggets out of it, and then we looked over it at the end, and it really helped to sort of clarify what I had been saying, and take out the important parts, and pull out the really key moments, and put it in a song. And it was not only really, really fun, but it was it was really interesting. But I mean, for me as a songwriter, it feels like it is such a making music in that way it feels so solution focused, because you're constantly probing down different areas and saying, well, where does this lead me? Okay, let's ask that question. Go for a major chord. Okay, I like that. Where does that lead us? And then moving on from there. It's not about having a fixed idea about this is where I am, this is where I need to get to. It's quite a fluid journey, especially when you're writing with other people, and making that collaborative effort that really, and we ended up with a song that was quite, it gave me a feeling of what I was talking about without me even realizing. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. Yeah, okay, that's great. But it was a great experience. I loved it.
Yeah, it was a really good song as well. And have you performed it? Have you played it to Aish and Joe? Because they're mentioned in it.
I haven't yet. To be honest, well, I've hardly been in. When lockdown happened, and we'd hardly been in the office, and you know what I mean. It's I could do it.
You here tomorrow morning, Matt.
Okay.
Oh man.
So, well, we're just finishing
play
the
a little
blog post.
voice.
Yeah. Well, Matt and I have just finished, more or less finished, I think, writing a blog post based on that workshop, which will be on my website soonish, very soon. But it was a really good experience. Yeah, and the song sort of had a nod to an Arcade Fire song, Matt. Was it?
Yeah, so it had, so at the start of the session, we were thinking about, I can't really remember, but it was basically songs like yours and Jonas's playlist, a song that I might like to add to a playlist like that. And I was trying to think of what I would want to add, and I came up with a song by a band called Arcade Fire, and the song was Mountains Beyond Mountains, from their album The Suburbs, which is a good album and a good song. And it was, and we couldn't quite work out where the solution focus connection was. But going back to what Jonas was saying earlier on, it's like sometimes you just know there is something about that song that gives you a feeling, and it's and for me there was a feeling of movement within the song, a feeling of sort of taking steps and moving forward and making changes. That is the feeling that the song gives me and puts me in mind of. So in the title of the song,
it says, Aisha, you're brilliant.
Is Matt there, or is he?
The title of the song is Aisha's the best.
Morning,
simply the best.
Okay. It was
Jonas
morning beyond, morning beyond mountain, beyond mountain. I think
Mountain Beyond Morning. Yeah,
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
But it was there was a link to, it was like a link to sort of morning routines and sort of a way of looking forward in the day. And it had that movement that was reminiscent of the song, and then it had that expansive kind of feel of looking forward. And I don't know, it's, again, there was something more in it than just the words. There was a feeling, and I think that was it. Something quite personal, and something quite about the connection to the music and the connection that me and Guy had on that day. That was, it was. You know, it meant something to me, and I think that is the important something from it. And I felt like something was clearer within myself.
Great.
From doing the work.
Oh, Matt.
Sorry, my internet's so bad, guys.
We need to hear this finished song at some point, Matt.
Yeah, you and Aish get a mention in it. There's a shout out to you and Aish.
I'm worried now because
no, it's nice.
I was just thinking, when you hear a song, is it the words that get you first, or the melody, or is it a connection of both? What is it that really grabs you with the song?
I think for me, it's both. I think the sound, perhaps the music, but I think it's both combined. And in the article that Jonas and I wrote, we thought about this: is it words? Is it the music? Because our article was about songs specifically, as opposed to music generally, and songs have got words in them. And as we were writing about songs, and I thought about Penny Lane by the Beatles, of course, and Paul McCartney. And just if you just read those words out, you know, it would be meaningless, really. If you just heard the tune, you know, it's quite a nice little tune, that. But it's like, how does it go? Penny Lane is in your ears, is in your eyes. When you hear the music and the words together, it just becomes so much more. And, you know, one of those magical songs of the 60s, really. And I think has to be a combination of the two.
I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
One fairly well established things people know is that musicians listen to music differently than non-musicians do. And there's a lot of research about that, and musicians can't stop listening to the music and trying to work out how it works. So nice augmented chord there. Yes. Whereas non-musicians just enjoy the sort of the wall of sound and it. So as a musician, it's quite hard. I find it quite hard to put myself in the shoes of a non-musician, listening to a piece of music, and we're trying to work out what will be attractive. I think part of it is there are some basics in music that affect your body and your nervous system, whether you like it or not. So the speed of the music, your body starts to try and synchronize itself to the speed of the music, whether you like it or not. It's a natural response, and it happens quicker if you like the music than if you don't. But it will. Your body will try and do it anyway. It's fast music. Your body will try and speed up. If it's slow music, your body will slow down. And then there's the emotion. There's the mood of the piece. And again, research about playing happy and sad music to people from different cultures in the world, and they had nobody had any difficulty in determining which was happy music and which was sad music, even if it was from a tradition that you knew nothing about and had no experience of. So there's some very fundamentals in there before we get to the, it's Liverpool and it's You'll Never Walk Alone sort of level of association. But of course, to the average person in the street listening to music, they don't worry about all that. They just know they're enjoying it or they're not enjoying it. It's appropriate or it's not appropriate. And there's a reason why people don't play ragtime at funerals, mostly, because it's not appropriate. Fast joke music at a funeral doesn't work, and so people don't do it. And it's a bit of sensitivity around that that I think goes a long way when we're about using music with clients and in workshops and that sort of thing.
I agree with everything that's being said. It's a good discussion, this. I find myself being most touched when I hear the musicians or the group finding their voice, doing something original or something that struck me as their thing, right? So, for instance, I was listening. I mean, I love New Order and Joy Division. I've listened to them for ages, and I was listening recently to the podcast Transmissions, and you can find it on Spotify. And it's a lovely series where they talk about the music. So it's them talking about how they, composed "Love Will Tear Us Apart" and lots of other things. And then I was listening to there's a song that they do called "Temptation," which is like the first real New Order song, because after Ian Curtis died, they kind of lost their voice. They didn't really know how to sound anymore. But he was part of the energy of the group, or the identity of Joy Division. And even in that first New Order album, they're kind of a bit lost, even though they're exploring, but it's not really there yet. And then listening to Temptation again, then for like the 100,000th time, with that story in mind of, this is where Bernard Sumner found his voice. This is where he figured out his way of expressing, because he had never sang a song as a lead singer. He had never been a lead singer in a band before, and so he didn't really know how to do it. But that song he does, and the point was really clear. And I found myself crying to bits just listening to that song, because this was the moment when he found his voice. And I really like it when I listened a lot to music, and I'm not a musician like Mark or the others. Even though I play a little bit guitar, I don't want to figure out the mystique of why it's sounding like it does. But I really like that when musicians, find something unique, something absolutely theirs, something that's their own expression, even though how they play the song, or they sing the song, or they compose the song, or if it's theirs, then it really resonates with me. It strikes a chord.
Yeah.
And it just gets me really excited when it's something uniquely theirs. Something that's really, it's unique.
Is that not when real authenticity shines through? And
I don't know what that is, but I feel there's something about that I look for when music.
Yeah.
And so you're not just talking about someone's own song, because cover versions can be incredibly unique.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
owned by the person doing the cover. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that song I wrote about in our article, Jonas, which when I first heard the Alabama 3, I don't know if you all know the Alabama 3, and I'd never heard of them, and I went to watch a film called Some Voices when I was living in Leicester, so it was about 20 years ago, and this amazing music came on as the film started, and it was really in your face stuff, sort of bluesy, dancey, amazing beat, and then the singer came in, and it was the John Prine song Speed of the Sound of Loneliness, which I knew mainly by Nancy Griffiths. Very plaintive, slow, lost love song or something like that, and I couldn't believe it. I thought, who's had the imagination to make that song, which I love, by John Prine and Nancy Griffiths, into this? Amazing! It just completely knocked me off. And so when the film finished, my mate John was I said, John, hang on, I've got to see who that. And it was the Alabama 3, one of the most unique sounds I've heard, really. And I went out and everything they've done. So it was just, and I associated that with my first. I mentioned Mark's course earlier, and Mark knows this really. There's 2 training courses that have been really influential on me as a practitioner and a trainer, with a course with Mark and Paul, and then before that, the course with Chris Iverson in '95. And I compared the not the shock, but the exhilaration of hearing that song by the Alabama 3 and my first exposure to solution-focused practice. Similar experience, really. Something unique about it. and about the presentation.
You know why I'm really looking excited is because I've actually heard of the Alabama Free. It's the first, yeah. I think they did the theme tune to The Sopranos.
They did,
TV series.
Amazing piece
great, yeah, brilliant, yeah. Oh wow, hey, I'm not as old as I look, or out of touch. But yeah, I think there's something about the rhythm of music that fits with our characters, isn't there? Because I don't think I could sit through a whole rock concert with loud thumping music. But I'd be more at home with a bit of, I don't know, Toots and the Maytals, a bit of old reggae, a bit of old soul, because it kind of it feels right for me. And I guess music has that power, doesn't it? It makes us, it feels right for us. And some of us have a very eclectic taste in music, and some kind of stick to what resonates, almost in tune with our personality, I suppose. But yeah, I reggae, soul, I grew up with that. Even bluegrass, the Alabama Free, the band, all different types, but they're all very much kind of on a mellower note.
Yeah, they're all rootsy. All those people. All those and people mentioned the sort of roots music, I'd say. Yeah,
definitely fits his personality.
Yeah.
Definitely. But we've actually come to the end of our FBS chat, guys. I know.
No.
Just getting tired.
There's got to be a part 2. We've got to have a part 2 on this.
When Matt and Guy have finished the song,
they'll have to perform it.
Premiere it.
They'll have to perform it. But what I was going to ask, Mark, if you don't mind, if you could see us out with playing a tune on your saxophone, if you wouldn't mind. But we really want to thank you guys, and please don't go when I end the broadcast, so we can say a thank you to you personally. So please just stay there. Next week, Wednesday, we have Rob Black joining us, who we did invite to join us. We did invite to join us tonight, but he did have other commitments, unfortunately. But so he'll be joining us next Wednesday at 7 p.m. I think.
Wow.
Sorry.
I said, don't miss it, everyone.
Don't.
Rob is
brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And we do have a co-host who will be joining Joe, and Joe again won't know who it is until that evening. But she is lovely. But yeah, so Rob Black next week. You guys are absolutely amazing, and I think one of the reasons why Matt stood out for us as when we were even before we were interviewing, we kind of knew he was going to get the job. Was because when we were delivering solution-focused 2-day training to him and his team, he really stood out. He was very SF-minded naturally, and that combined with his music skills just really did fit in with the way that we work and the crazy way that we are. So we're very thankful to Matt for everything that he's done for family-based solutions so far. And that also applies to Mark, Guy, and Jonas, who have always been incredibly supportive of us. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. And there will be a part 2. I won't disclose when because I don't know when it is, but we will have a discussion and make that happen. But Mark, if you don't mind.
Just a few bars of a tune that's perhaps a little appropriate for today.